Yo, what's going on? Delta Neon here, and today I wanted to make some Mew decks. Mew is the headliner of the upcoming banner, so I wanted to make some decks, but there's something a little bit weird about Mew, if I'm being honest. It's a very situational card, so you can't just slap it on every team. It's kind of hard to build a team around, because Mew is kind of a backup attacker. It's not your headliner like Charizard or Pika or Mewtwo, which is just going to be dominating the game right away. You kind of have to have something else do consistent damage, because let's say you're using Mew and you're fighting Pikachu, you just can't deal damage. So it's a weird situation, but the first deck I have is a very interesting deck. It could not be a cook. And it's based on a card that actually just got revealed today. We have Primeape, Marshadow, Double Mew with the Poke Flute. Which, if you don't know, the Poke Flute grabs one of your opponent's discarded basic Pokemon and puts it onto their bench immediately. So let's say you start with Mankey and you one-shot a Dedenne. You can use the Poke Flute, call the Dedenne back, and Sabrina them, and force them into something. Maybe that Primeape could one-shot with the 100 base attack that it has. And basically, the point of this deck is you're supposed to overwhelm your opponent with the damage you could do. You can start with Primeape. Obviously, that does 100 damage, 120 to Pikachu. You have your Marshadow, which could keep spamming 100 damage after your Primeape dies. And you may be thinking, well, what's Mew's part in this whole deck? Well, the big fault of Mankey slash Primeape is that it can't beat Mewtwo slash Charizard in a lot of cases, because they just one-shot you and you can't do anything back. But Mew's gonna kind of stop that from happening. You have your Primeape to destroy Pikachus, you have your Marshadow to help clean up, and then you have your Mew for Charizard and Mewtwo, which want to be cheeky, do some crazy stuff. Mind you, this deck only has fighting energy, so you're not going to be able to do any side shots. You could run a psychic energy, but I don't think side shots are really that worth it. But Marshadow is a mixed attacker, so keep that in mind. The Poke Flute is a very interesting item. Maybe that's not a cook for me. I don't know. I don't know. How many cards do I got? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Okay, I got 20 cards. Just making sure. Last time I accidentally added Lapras when there was no spot for Lapras, but I definitely think Poke Flute Sabrina just makes Sabrina one of the most busted cards in the game even better. So that's exactly what we needed, obviously. Sabrina wasn't good enough, so let's add Poke Flute and make Sabrina even better. Poke Flute being an item as well makes it very, very strong. If it was something like, if it was a support card, then you wouldn't be able to use it the same turn as you use Sabrina. But no, you can use Poke Flute and Sabrina at the same time. So those Venusaur decks that, like, you kill the Exeggutor, they get their Venusaur out in the front, and they're like, I'm good, I'm not going to play any cards. Well, now we have Poke Flute, we have Sabrina, and then we could dish out 100 damage and one-shot it. Something funny to note is Poke Flute is not really that good with... Poke Flute Sabrina is not really good with Mew, because most basics only do like 40 damage, but it could be good. I think this is definitely the most interesting deck that I cooked today. There is another one that's kind of interesting, so let's just move on. This is probably the least interesting deck I made. It's just Mew, Koga, Weezing, Arbok. We got a leaf in there in case Weezing gets stuck up front and we don't have Koga in our hand, or Arbok gets stuck up front and we want to hold on to our energy. We have double X speed just in case, like I said, Arbok or Mew gets stuck in the front, or even a Coughing, something like that. Obviously, we got Pokeballs, Professor Research, we got Sabrina's, and this is just an already existing deck, but They were starting to run like Wigglytuff in it, but I thought Mew could fit right in because it kind of serves the same purpose as Jigglypuff, as kind of like this backup attacker that can win you the game if you need to. So yeah, we have Mew here. Creates certain matchups like Dragonite, Mewtwo, Charizard. That's going to be your main things, but it could do even lesser Pokemon, obviously. So that's something to keep in mind. I don't really have as much to talk about with this team. I mean, you know what Arbok does. It locks people in. Sabrina, Arbok, very, very strong combination. You could even potentially set up a KO this way. You could pull out a Charizard that's very not ready to attack, like 2-3 energy on it. You put the Arbok in the front, you Sabrina them. They're stuck in the front, even though they have their 3 energy or 4 energy and they one-shot you. You send them your Mew, and then they're stuck in, you one-shot them. So there could be some synergy there. I definitely think if I had to pick the most consistent deck, this would probably be the most consistent deck Mew could be in. Maybe not. Let's take a look at our third deck here. This is also a cook from me. There's a lot of cards in here, obviously, as you can see. A lot of supporter cards too, which kind of clogs the deck, but I think it won't matter in most cases. You're only running grass energy in this deck. And basically you have Exeggutor and Mew. The idea behind this is Exeggutor, low commitment, decent damage. You have Exeggutor EX just in case, but sometimes building up a Mew in the back isn't going to do anything if you're fighting a Pikachu deck. And Exeggutor won't be enough damage. Well, how do you deal with the Pikachu if Mew's not going to be good? You have Tauros. Tauros, 3 energy, 120 damage. It definitely is a cook. We have Giovanni in case they use blue. We can counter their blue with Giovanni, which is funny. But, and we can also hit, you know, sometimes it'll come into play. You fight a Mewtwo, they use blue, and then you switch a Mew, you won't be able to get the one shot. So I think Mew actually is pretty good with Giovanni. You maybe even want to consider dropping Leaf in this deck for a Giovanni as well. In the first deck, you could consider dropping one of the blues for Giovanni, just so you could guarantee those one-shots on those Mewtwo's, right? Mewtwo with a blue will be able to survive a Mew copying its attack. Also, I should have prefaced this at the beginning, but this is me just assuming that Mew's attack is going to work the way that we want it to work, which is, it doesn't have to discard the energy. Maybe it will discard the energy if you're like running Psychic Energy and you use the attack and you have 2 Psychic Energy attached, you use Mewtwo's attack, it will discard the energy, or maybe it will just discard whatever energy you have. I don't know the specific wording, but yeah. And the last deck here is just Mew slapped on Mewtwo. Honestly, I don't know if I personally would run Mew on Mewtwo. Maybe that's just me, but with the release of Blue, I think it's better than Potion for Mewtwo, because a lot of the time Potion doesn't help, I guess you could say. Like, you kind of want Mewtwo to surprise people, I guess. I don't know how to explain it really, but you just have the blue there for assurance versus other Mewtwo's and Mews, which could... The reason you have blue is because there's going to be a lot of Mews, especially since it's the new headliner. People are going to want to use Mew, so you use blue, you can't get one shot unless they have Geo, and then it's kind of like oops. But I think Mewtwo is going to have to play around a lot more now that it has something like Mew that can counter for cheaper energy. I do think the regular Mew version of this deck will be better. I think you do want to add blue to this deck and potentially Leaf, but I think you want to keep Baby Mewtwo because the main reason Baby Mewtwo is in the deck is for Pikachu, and this Mew actually hurts you versus Pikachu. Obviously, you could do your 20 damage Psy Shot, which is not bad for turn 1, right? But Mewtwo isn't great into Pikachu a lot of the time. So making you weaker to Pikachu is not what you were really looking for with this deck. But yeah, let me know which of these decks you thought was the most interesting. I'm ready to try this Marshadow deck. I think it could actually be a very interesting deck. Obviously, with the amount of basics that I have, it'll be inconsistent starting with Primeape. So maybe consider dropping a Mew, dropping a Marshadow, adding something else, I don't know, potion or something just to make it more likely that you get Mankey. But if you start with Mankey, you put the energy, you're going second, you attack, then you evolve to Primeape, you put the energy, you do 100, you're kind of smoking their team, you have Marshadow in the back, you put an energy on it, you put a second energy, Primeape gets knocked out, and then you put Marshadow out, boom, 100 right after. There's not a lot of Pokemon that can live that combination of attacks. And honestly, Marshadow doing 40 is not even bad either. Especially, there's a lot of fighting weeks in this game. You got Dark, you got Normal, or Colorless, I guess I should say. What else? I think Still's weak to Fire. There's one more typing that I'm missing right now. Oh, Electric. Yeah, the most important one. There's a lot of decks that Primeape will be super effective against. So I definitely think this could be interesting. The Arbok deck just seems like a consistent deck you could use. Maybe it's not as good as the Wigglytuff version. Maybe Mew's Pope in this deck. I feel like this deck does pretty good into Mewtwo, which is kind of the point. So maybe you don't want Mew in here. Maybe you want something else like a Tauros. Tauros could be your flex pick here. I don't know. What else we got? The Exeggutor deck. It definitely has a lot of Pokemon. Having the Tauros there could be a problem. Maybe even run like one regular Tauros and like... what else could you run? I guess Kangaskhan you could run, or maybe there's a new Pokemon coming in this batch that we don't know about that's pretty good as a basic. Something like a Farfetch, but maybe better. Or just different, because Farfetch is pretty good for the opportunity cost, I guess. And Mewtwo, I don't think Mew makes it into Mewtwo. Maybe that's me undervaluing Mew's ability, but I personally don't feel like Mew makes it onto Mewtwo. I think Baby Mewtwo is a lot better for what Mewtwo needs, but only time could tell, right? Especially if genome hacking copies what the attack from the opponent would have done. Like, if genome hacking just makes you do 90 damage versus Pikachu, then Mew is like 20 times better than I'm thinking, but I seriously doubt that's how it'll work. Let me know which one of my decks is your favorite if you made it to the end. I definitely think this is the one I'm most hyped for. I'm definitely going to be trying that. But if you made it to the end, consider subscribing. And with that being said, this is Deltinian out. Peace.